No one can afford to buy a house right now. It's literally crazy out there.
It is getting to the point where buyers are discouraged, sellers are discouraged because a lot of people who are selling a home are looking to then buy a home. So yeah, it's a weird time out there, a difficult time for sure.
It is definitely 2024. So you happen to write an article, though, about how to actually buy a house in 2024, even with all of this wonky craziness.
I sure did. And it was essentially about why the costs of home ownership are as high as what they've been, and is it even possible, especially for first-time home buyers, to buy a home in today's market?
So tell us, Craig, tell us about this article.
Is that the microphone?
This is our new microphone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. So basically the gist of it ties right into the way that we opened here, which is it's almost impossible for people to buy a home right now. And it's because the cost of home ownership has gone through the roof. And of course, the cost of home ownership, what is that? Well, that has to do with borrowing costs, which is higher mortgage rates. So you don't qualify for as much as what you would have a year ago. Definitely not as much as what you would have 3 years ago when interest rates were, 2s and 3s. And then let's not forget about home prices. Everybody keeps talking about a housing crash and home prices are going to crash and come down. Yet they just keep going up. So we've got this perfect storm. And so within this article, I just talked more about, okay, why are housing costs so high? And also, what's going on with mortgage rates and are they going to come down? But I get into that in a little bit more detail in the article. But that's really the gist of it. Is it's almost impossible for first-time home buyers. But here's ways that you can buy.
But there's really no such thing as impossible.
Correct.
So let's make it possible for
Let's
them.
do it.
What's it going to take to get somebody into a home today?
Well, that's a good question. I wish we had a realtor here, and maybe she could actually extend, some advice, some expertise. Allison, I like some of the things that you said before we hit record when it comes to essentially take all the information what you should do with all the information that you've been hearing. Why don't you just repeat that? Yeah.
Okay. So basically, because there's no such thing as impossible, we just have to get our mindset right for 2024 buying. And that means toss everything that everybody has ever told you about buying a home and start from scratch. No expectations, clear slate, and let's make it happen. So to start, everything that mom's experienced, everything that your bestie said, your neighbors,
your accountants,
your cousin twice removed, all of it.
Ramsey. Sorry.
You had to throw that in.
I did.
Okay, so even in that, we have not so bad interest rates. They're not the 2 and 3%, but in not being that 2 or 3%, it is actually a win for home buyers.
How so?
Because we're no longer competing with the investors. Investors don't want to pay 6, 7, 8, 9% on a house.
True.
They just can't do it. It's not affordable for them, which means that the door is open for you to get your dream home and not settle necessarily on one that you just can get into because 50 people are bidding on the same house. So it is a win to have a higher interest rate because it's actually meant for the home buyer and not the investor.
Well, and that's a good point. And so, when you were just talking about the win and higher rates, I'd like for you to also touch on, what it is or what it means when you have higher rates versus higher home prices, because what happened, because you can speak firsthand, when just a couple of years ago, rates were down, and what did that do to the market with regards to home buyers?
Well, one of the reasons we have such high home prices is because the interest rates were so low that it just jacked it up. If you have 50 people wanting a home at $200,000, it's now a $300,000 home by the end of it. This keeps going on for too long.
It's a $300,000 home that may not appraise for $300,000 at the time.
Correct.
I think that's a key point.
Correct. And you hear me say it all the time. Let's just take that spare $100,000 you happen to have in a safe and put it down on the house. Put part of it to buy your interest rate down, part of it to just lower the cost of the house, and you're right back to a 2% rate
Right.
situation where you're paying over appraisal. But now we're actually buying homes at appraised value, sometimes under appraised value, because the interest rates have gone up. So then we have to balance out, though, the fact that the houses keep going up as well.
Right.
And so when you're out there looking, you can no longer say, I want your McMansion in your favorite area, and yet that you're going to be able to afford it. You really have to get with a smart guy, maybe him, and run those numbers and really make sure that you are in your comfort zone before you start looking, or you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying be ready to compromise, right?
Always. Well, that's in any home buying experience. Be ready to compromise.
Well, I know that that's the conversation that you have with your buyers a lot, but even more so in this market, you have to be prepared to give up a lot of those. I don't know. I feel like the whole wants and needs distribution, it starts to get a little bit more about what you need, and you're crossing out a lot of the wants.
Well, in every home sale or purchase, the biggest factors are price, location, and condition. So somewhere in there, you're going to have some give. If you want the bigger home to fit all of your needs and all of the new great, features in a house, you're probably going to lose out on location.
Yeah.
If you're going to score on location, you may be buying an older home that you're going to have to put some work into. It's all just a matter of balance.
So let me just ask you real quick on that, because one of the things I talked about in this article, and I'd like to get your opinion, whether or not you agree. Yeah, I was going to say you probably won't agree with. But so when it comes to fixer-uppers, is that something that you would encourage people to consider in this market?
Fixer-uppers are a breed of its own, and here's why. There's a fine line between fixing, updating, and fixing roof caving in, because you may not be able to get financing on a situation where you need too much work.
Right.
But if it's just the 1950s kitchen, but the house is solid, that is a win. That's a definite win, especially if you're younger and have the time and energy to put into it yourself. You're going to walk away from that house making great money.
Yeah, agreed. And one other question that I have for you is, so, a lot of people are wanting to wait for interest rates to come down. And so, what do you think is going to happen if rates do actually come down, just, I don't know, say half, 3/4, or even as much as a full point from where they are now, which is roughly at the time of this recording is right around 7%.
I picture, if you can envision this, back in the day when we had Black Friday sales and the lines are waiting at the door for them to hit 5 a.m. and they open the doors and everybody's running in, that's what's going to happen when prices drop. You have so many people waiting. When rates drop. You have so many people waiting for that magic moment that it's going to be a flood, and then the prices of the homes are going to go even higher because we're back to the bidding wars.
Right. We're literally back to where we were when rates were low, but it's even worse because rates aren't even that low, but because they got a little bit lower, and it's the psychology of it, everybody, now's the time. Well, if this is what you've been thinking, you're not the only one.
Now, I do have to ask you though, 2024 is an election year. How does that play into rates?
It depends, but generally, rates tend to get a little bit better during election years because whoever the current administration is trying to do some things that are going to help with their reelection.
So give the illusion that things are better than they are? Is that what you're saying?
If nothing else, give an illusion that it is.
The magic tricks?
Yeah. But you rarely see a ton of volatility because they also are working against every force possible to not have them go up any higher. So see things vary from time to time, but it's just incremental.
Now, I know you like to look at the historic numbers as well. Where is 2024 in the scheme of things? Is this everybody likes to say that we're going to have a housing market crash because the numbers are so high. Are we looking at a 2008?
What do you mean as far as
the numbers going so high on home values that...
Oh, no. We're in a completely different time, a completely different market. The reasons for home prices where they are now compared to what was going on in 2008, it's a whole different game, and we can do that in another video and get into that in more detail. But no, absolutely not. We're not going to have a housing crash. There's been so many people who've been talking about it and predicting it and saying what's going to happen, and it is yet to happen, and it's not going to happen.
And a lot of people wait for foreclosures also. And can you do financing on a foreclosure?
Yeah.
Can you really?
Absolutely.
Here's the funny thing about foreclosures. I don't think we're going to have a lot of them.
I don't either.
And the reason why is people have gained so much equity in their homes over the past couple of years. They are going to sell before they hit that point. So to all the home buyers waiting now, this is your time to jump, because if people are feeling the stress and you can afford to get in, not only are you allowing them to get their equity, you have no competition because we have low inventory. And then interest rates are going to constantly fluctuate. It's like playing the stock market.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your one piece of advice in this whole article that you would say is your takeaway for somebody who's about to enter the housing market?
Well, one of them is what we already touched on. It's like, just be prepared to give in a little bit, not check all of the boxes that you were hoping that you would check. I think that's a big part of it. Beyond that, I would say get pre-approved so that you have all your ducks in a row, so that when that house does come up, you are ready to make a move. If interest rates come down a little bit and all these other people that are rushing out on Black Friday, as you referenced, you'll be ahead of the game, because as you know, what do our buyers typically do? They wait until they find a home and then say, oh, I want to put in an offer. I need to get pre-approved.
Well, our buyers don't.
Well, they almost every buyer fights us on that.
Yes. But it's, I always say, be prepared in your numbers, because you don't want to fall in love with the castle if you can only get the cottage. So if you have realistic expectations on what you can actually purchase when you're ready to move forward, it's going to be so easy for you.
Yeah, it's all about expectations. You have the right expectations, you're going to go into this with a lot less stress, a lot less anxiety, and a lot less disappointment.
There you go. So when you're ready, first call him and maybe find this article.
We'll see you next time.